Sometimes, the way God works doesn't make sense. He doesn't always begin with what looks holy. Sometimes, he starts with what feels strange. In John chapter 9, Jesus meets a blind man, but instead of healing him right away, he spits on the ground, makes mud, and puts it on the man's eyes. And somehow, that moment changed everything. It wasn't clean, it wasn't expected, but it was real. And today, I want to ask you, what if your miracle starts the same way? Would you trust God, even when it doesn't look the way you thought it would? When faith feels unclear. A lot of people say, I trust God. It's something we want to believe about ourselves. But what happens when trusting Him means stepping into something that feels confusing, uncomfortable, even unreasonable? What happens when obedience has to come before the explanation? In John chapter 9, Jesus heals a man who was blind from birth. But He doesn't do it the way people expect. No light from heaven, no instant miracle, just mud, and a command to walk in faith. It's not just a healing story. It's a blueprint for real-life trust. Because let's be honest, there are times when God doesn't move the way we want, and we're left wondering, why is God doing it this way? If you've ever asked that question, you're not alone, and this message is for you. 1. God doesn't ask for full understanding. He asks for full trust. When Jesus saw the blind man in John 9, He didn't offer a full explanation. He didn't tell him what was going to happen next. He didn't promise a timeline or guarantee the outcome. He simply said, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam." No details, no step-by-step plan, just a simple instruction, given to a man who couldn't even see where he was going. And the man? He didn't argue. He didn't demand clarity. He didn't wait for confirmation. He obeyed, blind, uncertain, probably confused. But still, he went. That is what real faith looks like. It's not faith when everything is clear. It's not trust when you already know the outcome. True faith begins when you move before you fully understand. We often want God to give us the why. Before we give Him our yes, we want signs, proof, guarantees. But faith doesn't work that way. God's invitation is almost always the same. Trust me first, and you'll see later. And let's be honest, this is where many of us get stuck. We say we trust God, but when He asks us to take a step without clarity, we hesitate. When the job doesn't make sense, when the healing feels delayed, when the relationship ends unexpectedly, when the prayer seems unanswered, and yet it's in those exact moments that God is whispering, "Will you trust my voice even when you don't see what I'm doing?" The blind man could have refused. He could have said, "This is ridiculous. How is mud going to help me see?" But he didn't. He walked. And because he walked, he saw. That's how God still works. He speaks, He leads. But He doesn't always explain, because He's not just trying to perform a miracle. He's building something deeper, a relationship based on trust. So maybe today, you're in a place where things don't make sense, where you can't see the end of the road, where your prayer feels unanswered, where God feels quiet. And maybe, like the blind man, God is giving you one instruction. It might not be the full picture, but it's enough for the next step. Don't wait to understand everything. Just walk. That's where the miracle begins. 2. Sometimes God uses what feels strange to do what's sacred. Let's talk about the moment that shocks most people when they read John 9. Jesus didn't just touch the man's eyes. He didn't just speak a healing word. He spit on the ground, made mud, and placed it on the man's face. Let's be honest. That doesn't sound holy. It doesn't look spiritual. It definitely doesn't feel clean. If you or I were standing there, we might have questioned everything. Mud? Really? Is this necessary? Can't Jesus just heal him with a word? But here's the thing. Jesus didn't need the mud. He could have healed the man instantly. So why did he do it? Because sometimes God uses methods that don't make sense to us, not to confuse us, but to test the trust inside us. He's not looking for your logic. He's looking for your surrender. And the truth is, some of the most sacred things in your life will come through places that feel strange, messy, or even uncomfortable. Breakthrough may come through a job loss. Healing may begin in a moment of heartbreak. Clarity may show up in the middle of confusion. Spiritual awakening might begin with total surrender. God often works through what feels strange. Not because He needs unusual tools, but because He's inviting you to trust His process, not your preferences. We love the idea of miracles that are clean, quick, and glorious. But real transformation is rarely comfortable. The process might feel confusing, but the result is always holy. Think about it. The same God who turned water into wine also used mud and spit to open a man's eyes. What if your miracle won't look like what you prayed for? What if the answer to your cry starts with something you almost rejected? This part of the story reminds us of something vital. You don't have to understand God's method to trust God's heart. So whatever you're walking through, whatever feels strange, unexpected, or uncomfortable right now, don't rush to call it wrong. It might be the very soil where your miracle is being formed. Let God write the story, even when the next chapter starts with mud. 3. Breakthrough happens after you move. We often think that God will move first, and then we'll respond. We say things like, God, if you heal me, I'll trust you. If you open the door, I'll walk through it. If you show me the outcome, I'll obey the instruction. But in John 9, Jesus flips that thinking completely upside down. When He placed the mud on the blind man's eyes, nothing happened immediately. There was no flash of light, no sudden shout of praise, no miracle in that moment. The healing didn't come when Jesus touched him. It came after the man obeyed. After he got up, felt his way through the streets, and washed in the pool. Think about that. He had to walk, still blind, before he ever saw. He had to obey without seeing, move without proof, act without understanding. And maybe that's exactly where you are. Maybe you're praying for breakthrough, for clarity, for healing, for direction. But deep down, you're waiting for a sign before you take a step. And all the while, God may be whispering, I'm not waiting to bless you after it's safe. I'm waiting to bless you after you move. Because faith was never meant to be passive. It was never meant to sit still and analyze. Faith was always meant to walk, even when the next step is shaky, even when the path isn't fully lit, even when you feel like you're walking blind. The blessing isn't in the waiting room. It's in the walking. The miracle didn't meet the man where he sat. It met him on the road. It met him on the other side of obedience. God honors movement, not reckless movement, but faithful obedience, even when it doesn't fully make sense. You don't need full clarity. You just need one instruction and the courage to follow it. So the question isn't, when will God move? The question is, what step is He asking me to take, even while I'm still waiting? You might not see the result today, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening, because obedience is never wasted, and breakthrough is often waiting, just past the next step. So don't stay where it's safe. Walk. Even when your eyes can't yet see, your faith already knows the way. 4. Healing is only the beginning. Transformation is what follows. When the blind man returned from the pool of Siloam, his eyes could see for the first time in his life. But something even deeper had happened. Something people couldn't quite explain. The crowd looked at him and said, "Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg?" Some said yes. Others said no. He didn't even look like the same person. Why? Because when Jesus heals you, he doesn't just restore what's broken. He redefines who you are. Yes, the man received his physical sight, but something inside him had also awakened. He didn't just gain vision, he gained identity. He gained confidence. He gained clarity. And that's something no miracle can give, unless it comes with true transformation. You see, the real miracle isn't just that the man could see. The real miracle is that he didn't go back to the same place, the same posture, the same label. He was no longer the blind man. He was no longer the beggar. He was no longer the man people passed by and pitied. He was changed. When God touches your life, he doesn't just patch up the pain. He doesn't just fix your situation. He goes deeper. He goes to the root of who you believe you are. Because healing is the doorway, but identity is the destination. This is where many stop short. They receive the miracle, but still carry the mindset of who they used to be. But Jesus didn't heal you so you could return to your old name. He healed you so you could walk in your new nature. And just like the blind man, you may have to face people who don't recognize you anymore. They might say, "Is that really you? You seem different." And your answer might be the same. "Yes, that was me, but now I see." This is the invitation of transformation, to not just be healed, but to be made new, to walk, talk, think, and live like someone who's been touched by God. Because when he rewrites your identity, you stop living from your past, and you start living from his promise. So the question is, are you willing to let go of the old version of you? The one who was stuck, ashamed, or hidden? Because healing may happen in a moment, but transformation happens in how you choose to walk forward from here. Don't just settle for relief. Step into renewal. Don't just thank God for what he fixed. Embrace what he's now calling you to become. Because the miracle wasn't just that the man could see. The miracle is that he never lived the same again. Where breakthrough becomes becoming. This story was never just about physical healing. It was about a man who couldn't see, but still chose to trust. It was about a Savior who didn't offer a formula. He offered an invitation. Go wash. No guarantees, no explanations. Just a step, and on the other side of that step, not just a miracle, but a transformation. The blind man didn't just receive sight, he received identity. He was no longer who he used to be. Not in the eyes of others, and not in his own heart. And that's what God wants for you too. Not just a quick fix, not just answered prayers, but a new way of living from the inside out. So if you feel like you're in the dark right now, if things don't make sense, if you're waiting for clarity before you move, remember this: breakthrough doesn't come before the walk, it meets you on the way. Your next step, even if it feels small. Maybe your miracle isn't waiting in a sudden light. Maybe it's waiting in your next yes. The yes to trust. The yes to keep walking. The yes to let God lead, even when the road is still blurry. Watch this next. How Jesus taught us to handle worry, stillness, trust, and peace. Because sometimes the miracle isn't about what you see. It's about who you walk with. And when you walk with Jesus, you're never in the dark, even if your eyes haven't fully opened yet.